built up and built up. And they have to, well, they found that they would have to either buy the screens, but then at least use them for something else, or hire them. And my friend was also like, I mean, she's Christian, and she was just asking for a like
guidance.
Yeah, guidance, or just like getting this feeling of what she should do, and that was coming up for her to rather buy the screens. Because even earlier this week there was a bit of a difficult situation she was having, and she was upset, and I was just trying to calm her down. And I just said, okay, the lesson for today is, I think it's God is in everything I see. And I was also, they had to go to a difficult meeting, and I shared a little 10-minute like step aside and let the Spirit come in. She didn't get to listen to that meditation before she went, but it was just, she said they were a lot calmer. So there was that as well. But coming back to yesterday, it was quite funny because her husband like opened the door behind me, and I was busy in a work call. He like opens, he says, okay, got to pray. And then he was like, oh, sorry. And then closed it. And then I came back out, and then apparently some company that was accepting some advertising space. It was like, we were just talking about how like it was about trust, really, that things will happen when it needs to happen. And they were needing that, like the funding, and now it's coming in, so it's a bit of a relief. But we were just talking again about trust. And then I was listening to a recording last night. I think you had it from that day, John, or from yesterday, around the lesson, but I think it came up around your experience in terms of when you had that money situation last year. And I shared it with a friend, so I want to play it to her when she has a bit more time. They got home late last night, so I just wanted to share those. Yeah.
So it's like being the presence of love wherever you are. So you're there with them, and they've got a situation, and you can just be that calming presence, saying, it's okay, and there's another way of looking at it. And
it was on Monday, for that. And then there's also this, for them, it's like this, okay, mate, it's just sort of how hard it's really hard to trust, but then this was a sign to say, okay, do trust. When they got this phone, it was like this phone call literally happened. I think they were going to ask me to pray so that they call, and then literally, I think apparently a few minutes later, these people call, and they haven't like spoken to them yet for I think a few weeks. I think either the end of last year or early January, and then the phone call came, and it was very interesting. I didn't pray, I didn't do anything, because I was like, no, I'm in the middle of a call now.
Maybe you should share. I'm going to share my screen.
Thinking,
Maybe you should share this passage with them from the course. Let me just bring it up. Says it's about prayer. We've looked at this before, but I don't know if you've been in a session. So the only true prayer is for forgiveness. True prayer is for forgiveness. Let's see if it brings it up for us. There we go. Where are we? Number 6. So do you want to read paragraph 6 for us?
Sure. Prayer is a way of asking for something. It is the medium of miracles, but the only meaning for prayer is for forgiveness, because those who have been forgiven have everything. Once forgiveness has been accepted, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless. The prayer for forgiveness is nothing more than a request that you may be able to recognize what you already have. In electing perception instead of knowledge, you placed yourself in a position where you could resemble your Father only by perceiving miraculously. You have lost the knowledge that you yourself are a miracle of God. Creation is your source and your only real function.
So what is he really saying there about prayer and forgiveness and the relationship between them?
Once forgiveness has been accepted, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless.
Yeah, so he's saying it's exactly the same. The only meaningful prayer is for forgiveness. You don't ask for a specific outcome to happen. What you ask for is that you can perceive this properly. You can let go of your mental and emotional attachment to the situation, let go of your negativity. And then miracles happen. So it might be worth sharing that passage with them, saying, just, think, because a lot of Christians still think of prayer as, I'm praying for a specific outcome. Oh God, please help me with this situation, and I want someone to call, for instance. And I want something, an outcome on the level of form. And Jesus is saying, no, that's actually not the true prayer. The only meaningful prayer, in other words, only true prayer, is for forgiveness. Because those who've been forgiven have everything. So if you want to look at our little timeline of consciousness, it's about saying, okay, so whatever the situation is, my only job is to let go of my psychological and emotional attachment to the situation, which is all bound up with my ego, my separate self-concept, and to take my mind back in the situation to God or love, or eternity or pure formless awareness, to a state of mind where I'm really not concerned. And I rest in that presence. And when you do that, then that presence flows into your mind and into your life, because we're all connected, we're tapped into this quantum field, and it starts to do pretty miraculous things just through that correction of your mind. You don't have to ask for anything specific. You simply say, let me let go of my misperceptions, which is why I'm saying the true prayer is for forgiveness. You simply ask, let me forgive, which of course is really just a prayer to your own higher awareness of oneness or Holy Spirit, that you remember. You remember the truth in this situation. So it puts a very different spin on prayer, and it also makes it very internal. It's like it's not somewhere out there. It's not something or someone out there doing this for me. It's my own mind letting go of its mental and emotional attachment, and then freeing the mind to just be open to whatever will come. I don't know necessarily what the outcome will be, but I do know that I'm at peace now, and that's all that matters. So it's a very different way of praying, and it's a very different way of approaching problem solving. But it works. It really does work. This is what miracles are about, rather than any kind of conscious manifestation. So most people use prayer, it's really a desire. I want this to happen, and now I pray for it to happen. But really, actually, what I'm confirming in my mind is that it hasn't happened yet. And so often it doesn't work, because you're still in the consciousness of lack, and it hasn't happened, and there's still a problem. Whereas the letting go simply says, no, there's no problem. So you restore your mind to its wholeness, and then from that state of mind, problems can just resolve, because there is no problem in your mind. So it's a very different way. It's not rational to the ego, of course, because it doesn't play by the ego's rules, but it really does work. It's very, very powerful, as you've probably experienced for yourself. So maybe share this with them. This is passage section 5 of chapter 3.
Yeah.
Paragraph 6. So I'll send that to you right now if you like, so I don't forget. Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
And that might be a nice way of introducing them to another way of thinking. If they're Christian and they sort of open-minded, then maybe this is a path that might work for them. Just give them a deeper understanding, really, of
How would you do that in a situation then, Jono, where you've got an issue coming up? I mean, a conflict with somebody, for example. So do you pray for forgiveness of whatever your thoughts are around that person?
Well, you just let it go. The truth is, prayer is just a request to your own self, your own Holy Spirit, your own awareness of oneness, to let go. It's like, okay, yeah, I need to let this go. So there's an intention there to let it go, and then just let it go and say, okay, I'm not attached to the outcome here. I'm willing to let this whole thing go, and just drop it. My mental and emotional attachment to it, I'm just dropping that, releasing it, and then you've done it. It's not more complicated than that. If you've really let it go and you're at peace with the situation, then you've done forgiveness.
That was a very good moment here in Findhorn, because I just put us on mute, and I said, Kenneth, look, this is really good. This is really good. Just let it go, let it go. He said, yeah, in my language, I say drop it. And then you said, just drop it.
Just drop it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever language you want to use.
Yeah.
Drop it, release it, let it go. Some people use surrender or acceptance. What are you accepting, really? Well, that can be confusing. Well, what am I really accepting? Actually, what I'm accepting is the truth. That's what acceptance means. I'm letting go of the illusion. I'm accepting the truth of the matter. I'm accepting that everything's actually okay.
Yeah.
So I try and get quite precise with the language. Really what you're doing, it's so simple. Just let it go. Let go of the thoughts, let go of the emotions that are troubling you. It's as simple and as difficult as that. And then you've done forgiveness. There's no more prayer needed. You activate some other intelligence to come in and work on that problem. And maybe that means it just goes away. Maybe it means you get some kind of inspiration to do something. Who knows?
I like that. You're making room for another intelligence.
Yeah. Which will come in when you let go of your own ideas about it. And you don't have to, this is really the teaching, you don't have to tell it what to do. You really don't. In fact, telling it what to do means it's not that intelligence. It means you're working with the ego, because the ego says, oh, no, you've got to know the specifics, what's going to happen, what to do. And you really don't have to, because it's beyond you. It's not, it's way beyond your little ego. So you just have to let it go and then wait. Okay, well, maybe I get an inspiration, an intuition that I should do something. And then that's, if it's deeper, and you need to become discerning about, what's ego and what's spirit. But it's generally like a deeper and it's more subtle than the ego. And it might come, it's strange, it just comes. Something pops into your head kind of randomly. There was no intention, it just happened.
Yeah.
So that's often how you know that it's the Holy Spirit and not the ego.
Yeah.
The ego, it's all about this, isn't it? It's about the timeline, it's about your story, and you're trying to work it out with your rational mind, and it's based on your past experiences and what you anticipate in the future. We know the whole story, and that doesn't really work because it brings in all of this falsehood, and now you're really just not perceiving truly at all. You're perceiving everything falsely, and that's not going to help you. Jesus says you are wrong. Your perception is wrong. He says that a couple of times. You are wrong. If you're perceiving from this perspective of the separate self, and you really think that these situations are real and you are on the timeline, it's wrong. It's a wrong perception. It's very simple. The correct perception is to go, no, none of this is true. None of this is really real. And actually, pure formless awareness or love is still present, and it's in my mind right now, irrespective of the situation, the drama that's playing out here. And so then you lift your mind above the battleground into that place, and you find a peace and a serenity no matter what. And then the situation works itself out. You get guidance as to what to do. These things just unfold for you.
Yeah, I started massaging her hands yesterday morning. and you know, just feeling instinctively around all the organs and all the points, and she was freezing cold, and then she warmed up, and I just felt so easy and loving to do.
And so in that moment, you just got told what to do.
Yeah, I did.
And that's, you know, I mean, Kenneth, maybe you want to speak to this. So if you're healing, what happens? You just get told what to do, don't you?
When I don't say anything because they start to talk self.
The voice is talking through you.
Yeah.
So everything, like what the words and your actions, it's just guided. It just happens.
My hands go
wherever they need to go.
It shall be, and I relax. It goes up.
And that's healing through the Holy Spirit, because then you're just totally letting your mind and your body be used as an instrument. It's not you with your intentions and trying to, you know, work it out.
I got that gift boosted when I die on the operation table and 10 minutes after I wake up. So when I later understand that, then they start to be like that. So I had a crystal view of what's happened, so-called the dead side. And everyone have their own.
What happens when we're clinically dead?
It's only about me when I was there.
So did you have an NDE, a near-death experience?
Yeah. So I stand on my knee and cry and regret things, and I'm not religious. So I just saw in the white eye. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's about me. Yeah, tears come, and I say, I'm sorry, I really mean it. And I really mean it. And after a long while, I was back.
Okay. And was that when your healing work started?
Yeah, sometimes I start to talk about that with people who are very suicide. Yeah.
Yes.
Then I tell you want to know what's happened, because it's two different kind. If you would do it self and if you let nature take. So it's a big task to create the person in the esoteric world and read about it. And it's not nothing we shall throw away. We shall go through everything. It's karma, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So like going, I mean, see, death is a huge portal to that. So there's many people who've had near-death experiences, and it just changes your life, doesn't it? Because it gives you a totally different perspective on actually what's reality, what's actually going on here.
I'm a funny child today.
Huh? What's he saying?
So he calls himself a funny child.
Yeah.
Funny
today.
child. Right.
Right. Not judging. I cannot judge because I understand I judge myself if I judge.
Yeah.
I just drop it.
Yeah. Well, from this perspective, you're in pure formless awareness. Judgment is meaningless. It really doesn't have any meaning there. It doesn't exist. There's only that presence.
Yeah.
I think if you've had I haven't had a near-death experience, but from what I've read and understood, it's just it just is. You're in that light. I've had a little glimpse of it after my Vipassana, 9 days of Vipassana meditation. So it was just a little like, it just is. It's a presence. It's so peaceful. Just this pure formless awareness. And judgment has no meaning there. It doesn't exist in that state. So this is what Jesus is trying to get us to do, is to let go of our judgment, go here, restore our mind to that awareness, and then let this awareness, this intelligence, just flow into our lives and direct things. It doesn't mean you do nothing, but you take guided action. You know, what you need to do, you'll do, because it's the awareness that's doing it, not you. You're not the character on the timeline anymore. You've raised yourself into this pure formless awareness of that is above the battleground, as he says.
Yeah.
You hear the voice like music.
Yeah, it's like music when you tell that. I remember 2004 I operate, and 2008 I was. I don't want to live like this. Eat 18 tablets and woman every morning. So I meditate, and I got some contact with that feeling I had, and I start to be joyful and forget everything my issues. And then I say, I'm gonna stop eat medicine, even if they say I die. And I stay. I stop 2008. I see thing here. I live.
Yeah.
So yippee.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because the truth is, you're not going to die if you don't take all the meds. You actually probably you're going to start waking up to who you really are and detoxing your body and your mind, because 18 different tablets is going to seriously.
Oh yeah.
Seriously, as you probably know, seriously affect your mental and emotional state.
They kill the kidneys, everything. So you must have for that and that and that and.
It's just,
that's no life. There was not that. I thought. I want to be clean, and I fast and I did things and off was away.
Yeah. It's really an insane idea, really, that you're going to give people these drugs.
Yeah.
It's just when you look at it and you go like, what thought system is behind this?
Yeah.
It's not actually doing anything. You're just trying to manage the symptoms, but create a whole lot of other problems.
Yeah.
These powerful chemicals put into the human. I mean, this is not sensible at all. One would think, and yet this is how it works. This is how Western medicine works. Quite extraordinary.
Yeah. And the university hospital, 12 doctors look at me, sitting a little higher up, and they look at me, say, "You cannot talk about this." I start to laugh. I had so fun. So I said, "Thank you."
What, you mean you had meditated and felt joy?
Yeah,
and
no, they mean I cannot go and talk about this. I don't take medicine because others want to do the same, and they're gonna die. So they was confused, and I say, I take care of my life. The other must take care. I cannot live others' life. So
everyone's gonna make their choice. But,
then they stop, and then they not talk to me longer.
Really?
No. They don't want to meet me.
You would disappear.
I'm a black.
No, well, you didn't play their game, did you? So.
No, exactly. I was happy.
And then they're not happy with you. But if you play their game, it leads one way. We know where it's going. It leads to sickness and death, because it's a thought system based on sickness and death. So what else would you expect from the ego? But what it believes in.
Yes.
And they don't like anyone who rumbles them and says your thought system is based on sickness and death, and I want no part of it. Actually, I'm going to go to eternal life. That's where the healing lies. It's not in drugs and in a thought system based on sickness, which is not actually designed to cure anything. It's only designed to keep you on the drugs, keep you dependent on the drugs until eventually your body's so toxic that you die, and they've taken who knows how much money out of your bank account through the addiction that they've enslaved you in. So it's legalized drug pushing, really. That's what it is. And if you look at Anita Mojani's story, I mean, that is just incredible. She also had a near-death experience, and she was so far gone, her body was shutting down, her organs were failing. The doctors were like, say your goodbyes. She is out of here in the next few hours, they said to the family. She is so far gone, there is no hope of recovery. And yet she recovered. She's fully recovered. She's quite happily living her life now. So it just shows what this power can do.
Oh, yeah.
The medical industry would say it's not possible. When your organs are shutting down, you're an organ failure, that's it. There's nothing we can do. But this life presence that she accessed in her near-death experience was so powerful that it healed her body. Within 3 weeks, the cancer was gone entirely, all of it. And she was riddled with it, like tumors the size of golf balls all over, riddled with it. And in 3 weeks, it's all gone. Now, how? They can't explain that. That doesn't fit the medical model at all. That's not possible. No chemo, they disappeared.
Yeah.
Because she'd been into the light, she accessed the very source of life itself, and she had a profound spiritual experience. And that life said, go back and I will help you to heal so that you can carry my message into the world, because people need to hear this message. And so I need to make you well. And so it did. So there really is no order of difficulty in miracles. We just have to trust it, trust this power to sort out even the most trivial things. So John, by comparison, your sale of your property is trivial, but it's just like something that's niggling. So maybe it's just like really let it go. Really go. Okay, I'm not going to worry about this at all. I'm really going to drop the whole problem. I'm giving it to spirit. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to let go of any irritation or any negativity at all, and then see what happens. You might be quite surprised, because it's actually happening for you. It's happening for your own enlightenment. That's why the situation is dragging on. Because there's still something in your mind, if you're honest, that's resisting, that's like trying to do it your way. And so if you really take it to another level, it's okay, I'm really going to let this go, give it all up. There's no negativity at all. I'm going to let go of all of that. I'm just going to trust the spirit, and it will sort it out. However, I have no idea how that's going to happen, but it's not my part. I don't have to work it out.
Yeah, I don't understand self, but it was good in the end.
Yeah. So I'm clueless. Okay, I don't know, but that in that is the surrender, and then the spirit can come in and work miracles. So it's always a call to go deeper. And we go, oh well, I've been on this path for so long, but it's a deepening of it. It's like, okay, how much have you really surrendered? Have you really let it go, or are you still holding on a little bit to, no, this is the way it should be, and this is the way I think it should be, and so on. And obviously the negativity and that the way you think it should be are bound up together.
Yeah.
Because it's just a part of your mind that hasn't quite, let go to the spirit and said, okay, I really don't know anymore at all.
It's interesting. When I got the messages, I have 3 months to live. Then the time goes and everything, and then we are in the last week. That's interesting, really. I was in my bed and I feel, oh, so I'm gonna die on Tuesday. Wow, I feel a little scary. Yeah, so I feel a little scared. This is before the operation.
Yes.
Then I think, no, I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna live, and that's what we call drop it. I just leave everything, and then they come like a shower, and I was so calm, and I accept to die. And after that day, telephone call to say you have a liver to collect. You have 1 hour to come in.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got help in, and I was totally hit in the head.
It's a liver transplant.
Yeah, liver transplant.
Liver transplant.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And
When-
so you let go, and then it just happened for you.
Yeah, I just go with the wind, and then I live.
Yeah.
Just
So that's the
let it
interesting
go.
thing is,
Let it
like,
go.
you let go of the desire to hold on to your life, and then you live.
Yeah.
How paradoxical is that?
Yeah, I mean, why me? Thank you.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But Jesus said, he who seeks to preserve his life will lose it, and he who lets go of his life will gain it. And he's talking about eternal life, letting go of the ego and this limited life of the ego, and then letting go into the spirit.
It's funny because I was an addict before, and I really destroyed my liver, and so I wonder why me. And then everything happens, turn around. So what's the meaning with this? So when I even talk to people I treat, I talk about myself, not scared talking about myself. So
Yes,
open. And then they start to be interested and say, yeah, and they be totally look young after the session. They look very young in the face.
Yeah,
I say, look in the mirror, and they'll be happy.
Yeah. Well, you do see the difference. I mean, we saw it in Iona particularly.
Oh yeah.
Remember earlier in the course, did you notice it? Because she did this, she was doing this work, and then it's like, whoa, suddenly Iona's just like dropped 10 years. And she's looking like a girl again.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite extraordinary. And I see it in these retreats. It's so marked. Because you take a photo before, well, you see, we must actually do that if we run retreats. Take a photo before and then afterwards.
Absolutely.
Just so people can see the shift in a few days of like what actually happens physically. It's a sign of what's happened mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, that lady retreat, you remember, she was like a young girl, and walk light, go to the hand and feed them, and forget to say bye.
She was so happy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well,
So happy.
thank you for sharing that. All right, so should we have a little look at today's
We better have.
today's lesson? So actually, let's look at the quote. This is a nice quote because it's definitely worth considering this as well. So, Kim, do you want to read that for us?
Yeah, sure. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living the result of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of other opinions drown your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become.
Steve Jobs, which that could be a spiritual teacher, but he's an entrepreneur. But it just shows you it's all the same message. So it's the call of the heart. It's the hero's journey, as I said. Start call to adventure. Will you listen to your heart, or will you drown it out with all of the ego's rubbish? And have the courage to follow your heart. So the courage is where it starts. And if you remember in the scale of consciousness, courage is the breakthrough level, 200. Because at 200 you start moving up out of the ego. So it takes the courage to go, I will listen, I will trust, I will listen, and I'm going to take this on. And it doesn't matter what the difficulties are, I'm trusting, which then is the next one up above, isn't it? Trust. I'm trusting that I'll be guided, that this will work out in a way that maybe I can't conceive of right now. So it's a call to trust, courage, and trust. To start the journey and move out of our comfort zone and into a place where, we might get challenged and tempted, but that's part of the journey. And you're willing to take that on. Because your heart, the hero's journey, is the awakening. So your heart, your Holy Spirit, knows that this is what you really want. This is your heart's desires, to awaken to who you really are. And you have to go on a journey to do that. So it's an internal journey. So the reason why this is an archetype is because this is the curriculum. This is life in this world, separated world, is a call to awaken, and that's universal because the truth is universal. And so then our job is to, how can I be this love? Especially if you've been through some awakening yourself, then you can take that back. And isn't it interesting? I don't know. Look at what's there. The gift of the goddess.
Yeah.
So like that's almost exactly what you were giving today. The gift of the goddess. Coming back, and it's the end of the course now. So it's like, okay, so you've been through a bit of the abyss and the death and the rebirth. You come back, and now you bring the gifts back into the known world. Isn't it extraordinary how that plays out?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that in just this 6-week period. Yeah.
So, and this is just the beginning. But now you've had a shift and a transformation. The job is to come back, bring the gifts back, and help people to go on their own journey. So you just gave her a call to adventure. You said join in. Well, it's up to her if she's going to listen. You can't walk this path for anyone. They've got to be willing. So if she shows up, great. If she doesn't, then she's obviously not ready. That's fine.
Okay.
Not for everyone. But you've done what you needed to do, and you've given her both healing in the moment, and you've also given her an opening to her own hero's journey if she wants it. She's willing. So, and that's all you can do.
True.
Can't walk the path for anyone. Okay, so shall we have just these 3 modalities of awakened doing. So it's worth having a quick chat about that. I don't know if you watched the video or read this article, but
yeah, I did listen when I was traveling this afternoon. It's great 40 minutes. Yeah.
So
they were good.
Good, you listened. So Eckhart just talks about these 3 modalities, and this is how to be conscious in your doing. Either you're accepting, which means that you're just being present and doing what's needed. You might not necessarily be actively enjoying it, but you're not resisting it. So acceptance is there's no resistance. So for instance, you might be broken down. I actually had a situation. I broke down side of the road, and it's quite late at night. I'm driving down, and my sister's expecting me, and I had to just drop the resistance and let it go and say, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to be very present and do what I need to do, which is to change the tire. And then you do what you need to do, and you get through it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, actually, I quite enjoyed that in hindsight, because it was a challenge, and I got through it, and it was some learning and etc. So at the very minimum, you need to accept, and then enjoyment is a level above that. So that's where you're actually able to really feel this flow of presence coming through into the activity, and there's an active like I really actually that feels very good to do that activity, and that's ideally where you want to be spending most of your day, in enjoyment. I enjoy what I do, it just flows through. I mean, I know from your painting, it's just happening, and there's a natural enjoyment in the process. You don't have to force it, there's no effort, it's just coming through, and so you're in this flow of the spirit now, just doing it through you, really. So it flows through you into the world from this deeper place. And if you're fully present and immersed in it, then the flow is happening. So that's ideally, and if you can spend most of your time doing this and make a living from this, that's the ideal. If the joy is flowing through you, and you really enjoy what you do, and you can monetize and get paid for it, that's your ideal situation, which is possible. There's no reason why it's not, because this state of mind does create a lot of value for people. So you've just got to sort of figure out then how to capture that value, if you're going to do it as a business. And then enthusiasm is just taking it to the next level, which is entheos, means God in you. So it's saying, if you have this little, you have a vision, and you just add that vision in. Now you enjoy the process, but there's also, I'm going there with it, and it adds that extra element, and that extra bit of inspiration. Enthusiasm, inspiration really mean the same thing, just different root words. Entheos, God in you; inspiration, spirit in you. And then you just have that little bit of extra oomph, that takes it to another level, and you can create extraordinary things from enthusiasm. So I'll give you an example. In the 1960s, apparently NASA, when they had this single vision to put a man on the moon, it was the most amazing organization to work for. Everyone was inspired. Everyone had the same vision. There was a common purpose. If you asked the janitor, what's your vision? They'd say it's put a man on the moon. So it was a focal point for the whole organization. And then once they achieved that, then it fell down to a much lower level because there was no galvanizing vision, uniting vision. So that's an example of enthusiasm. So if you can tap into that and go, oh, okay, so I've got a little vision here. I don't know exactly, but this is going somewhere. Like, for instance, in your case, I paint, but my vision is this. I want to take this in this direction. Maybe you're going to do painting as a healer modality. You want to run workshops. Now you have a little vision. It just adds a little bit of something else to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Definitely.
Without lapsing into don't say that you want to arrive at your goal more than you want to be doing what you're doing. Then you become stressed because then it's outside in again. So no, I enjoy it. I really love it. And there's just this in the back of my mind. This, okay, so I'm going somewhere with this. And you only have to drop into that vision like once a day. You could do it when you do your higher purpose. You just briefly hold it, and then the rest of the time you're in the flow and you're in the moment. You're like, okay, I'm doing what I'm doing. But just that thought, that vision, it affects the quantum field, and it starts to influence things in a way that will tend to allow that vision to happen. Just by thinking about it, for a very short time in a high frequency state. It's that vision starts to manifest through you. You're not really doing it. It's being done through you. You're the channel for it. And if it's all guided, then it can feel amazing. Sustained enthusiasm is creative energy. It's being in the flow, and amazing things can happen if you're in that state. And then just one thing for your sense, John. He says enlightenment, this enthusiasm comes on the outward cycle and not on the return journey. So what he's meaning is when you're in the stage of your life where you're creating, you're doing things, then enthusiasm can be really really helpful. But if you're on the return journey, going back to source, then he says enthusiasm isn't necessarily appropriate because you're not trying to create something. You're not trying to create something extraordinary on the outer. You're more just deepening into the presence and the beingness, and that's fulfilling enough. So it depends where you are in your life as well as to whether this enthusiasm is appropriate. So then he says, nobody can live in enthusiasm all the time. New wave of creative energy may come later and lead to renewed enthusiasm. And the return movement toward the dissolution of form sets in. Enthusiasm no longer serves you. Enthusiasm belongs to the outgoing cycle of life. So, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You might just find a deepening, like in the return movement. You find a deepening into your being that's very satisfying in itself, into the peace and the love and the joy, and enthusiasm for some project isn't, as he says, isn't really necessary or appropriate. So it just depends on where you're at in your life as to whether. But if you're still in the phase of doing things in the world, this enthusiasm can really help and work for you. Okay, and so let's have a look at the lesson then, shall we? Any questions on that?
No, it's great.
No. So I have invented the world I see. John, do you want to read that first paragraph for us, please?
Yeah. Today we are continuing to develop the theme of cause and effect. You are not the victim of the world you see because you invented it. You can give it up as easily as you made it up. You will see it or not see it as you wish. While you want it, you will see it. When you no longer want it, it will not be there for you to see. It's kind of a summary of the whole lesson, really, in those couple of sentences.
Well, so anything stand out for you there?
Well, I like that third sentence. You can give it up as easily as you made it up.
Very encouraging. It's a thought system, so it's just giving up the thought system. The body remains for a while, continue to live in an apparently external world, but the idea behind it is what you're giving up. And then everything's reinterpreted. So you're giving this up. The idea of being the victim. And the previous lesson was about the victim. I'm a victim of an unfair world. I'm living a helpless, innovative little life. Limitation, lack, loneliness, and suffering. And he's saying you can give that up as easily as you made it up. It's just an idea. Then you still operate in the world of form for a while, but that is no longer the program. That's no longer your belief. Because it is just that. It's just a belief. Okay. So any further thoughts on paragraph 1?
No, I think it's straightforward.
While you want it. So just to reference back to the diagram, while you want it, you will see it. Okay, so what kicked off the whole process of the separation? What was the start of it? Anyone can answer that. Yeah, but it was a desire, wasn't it? It was a desire to be separate. Oh, that could be interesting. If I had my own identity, that's where it started. Oh, now I desire that. Oh, that could be interesting. Much more interesting than oneness. It starts with desire. And so
I was pondering while I was driving, my God, if I invented this all, that must mean I still want it. But as I was seeing outward beauty on this beautiful drive, I invented that too. I invented the beauty and the sunset and the pink birch trees and the sea in the distance. So beautiful.
You invented all of it.
Yeah. So I must want the beauty.
Yeah, but the problem is that beauty won't last. This is the problem. None of it's...
No, it got dark.
Eh?
It got dark.
It got dark, yeah. Everything changes. You can't see it anymore. Everything fades and dies here. So the ego's form of beauty is not eternal. It's temporary.
Yes.
And what he's asking us to do is to say, look, only give value to what is eternal. If it doesn't have permanence, then it's not valuable and it's not real. Which means that all of the temporary forms that you say are beautiful are part of the same construct.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Think of it this way. It's a mock version. This is a mock-up of eternity. So the ego's tried to do its best to create a reality that is going to be satisfying. It's going to work for it. But because it's a mockery of what is true reality, it's never going to do it. Like nothing the ego creates is eternal. So everything here is going to fade away and die. And you can say, oh, well, it's really beautiful. But then there's a sadness to that beauty because you go, but it's not going to last. Like whatever the scene is, you had a beautiful drive, you see the scene, then it gets dark. Okay, the experience is over. It doesn't last. You could go back the next day and you could see the beautiful thing again, but tomorrow it might be raining and it might be cloudy. So you don't, so nothing in this world is permanent and eternal.
Yeah.
So he's asking us to give up our addiction to the impermanent.
Okay.
And just say, look, stop it, because You're addicted to the impermanent. And the impermanent is always going to disappoint you because it's not permanent. So it's going to fail you at some point. And if you're addicted to this, whatever the form of it is, oh no, I love nature, it's so beautiful. Yeah, the problem is, look at the downside of this. The downside is you can't hold on to any of it. It's all going to fade away and be undone. And in the end, all you have is your experience.
Yeah,
So you think it's beautiful, and it gives you what does it do? What is beauty? It gives you a feeling of some upliftment, doesn't it? Some kind of, oh, that's nice, and I feel kind of quite good, and I feel a bit more inspired. So really, it's just a catalyst for a state of mind to arise in your own mind. But that
Yeah,
state of mind is already there.
I say to Kenneth, oh, shut up, you're so impermanent. You know, I'm not going to love you.
Yeah, well, his ego is impermanent, but his spirit is true. So then you see where you're relating from. If you see that person as eternal spirit,
Yeah.
it's a very different view of them compared with a temporary body and ego, an ego identity. So this is part of the shift, to see people as they really are, permanent, eternal spirit, and then you recognize it in yourself.
Yes.
As well. So it's a call to that. And when you want it, you will see it. So if you still want to see beauty in the external world, you will see it. If you want it. So, this is possible. But then you have to accept everything that goes with this world. That's the problem. In order to see beauty in the external world, you have to accept also the downside of the external world. Nothing here lasts. Everything fades away. Everything dies. Everything disappoints me. In the end, I'm going to die. My body, you have to accept the whole package.
Yeah.
You can't just take a snippet and say, oh, well, I just want the beauty, but I don't want the pain and the suffering and the sickness and the loss and the death, because it's all part of it. And that's what he's trying to get us to see. That actually what the ego offers you isn't of any real value. Because by comparison, the spirit, which is permanent and true and eternal, offers you a permanent state of happiness, permanent love, permanent peace, permanent joy. It doesn't fade away when it gets dark. The experience doesn't change and shift. It's permanent and it's eternal. So why wouldn't you want that? They're saying give up your obsession with the impermanent and give your mind to the eternal.
Yeah.
And that you can only make sense. If you're in your right mind, that only makes sense. So yeah, okay, he's offering me permanent peace, permanent happiness, permanent love. Why wouldn't I want that permanently, forever? Why am I choosing what's temporary and what I know it's guaranteed to fade? I know, we all know this. This isn't going to last. We know this, but yet we still carry on this track of valuing the impermanent. Okay, so any questions about number one? Should we move on? Move on to number two. So Kim, if you can read that for us.
The idea for today, like the preceding ones, applies to your inner and outer worlds, which are actually the same. However, since you see them as different, the practice periods for today will again include two phases, one involving the world you see outside you, and the other the world you see in your mind. In today's exercises, try to introduce the thought that both are in your imagination. I'm not sure if I did that today, but okay.
Yeah. Well, if you did one of them, did you practice it at all?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Well, you're doing well.
But it just says try to introduce the thought that both are in your own imagination.
Yeah.
I was just looking outward and then closing my eyes and thinking inward, but yeah.
Well, that's okay. So just to go to the integral model, what he's saying here is really,
Yeah.
he's just expressing this in words. Saying the inner and the outer are not really separate. So we have these seemingly different quadrants, interior and exterior domains of reality. But in truth, that's not the case. This is part of the illusion. We think of something as external to us. We think of something within our minds, but actually it's all thought. The external world is still thought. It's just a projection of thought. It seems to be outside. That's the illusion that's been created to convince you that it really is outside. And in fact, to stop you from going within and really finding this deeper peace within, in the individual interior. So the inner creates the outer world. And then that feeds back. From the outer, we then go, oh, well, the outer's real, and so now that's going to affect my inner world. But it was the intention, the thought that comes first. As he said in, I think it was lesson 15, it's always the thought that comes first, although you're tempted to believe that it's a perception that comes first, that the external world is dictating your thoughts. That's not the case. The thought comes first, then you perceive, and from that thought, from that belief, you then interpret this. So it reinforces the thought. And that's how this works. Okay, so you're saying apply it to both because actually they're the same. So once you really get to the highest level of awareness, you realize these are all part of mind. It's really just one mind doing it. Everything's part of the mind.
So I was just reflecting a little bit, Jono, on what you were saying about enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And actually, it's quite interesting because just thinking back to my own time when we had the business, my enthusiasm was a big driver. And having sold the business, I did some business mentoring, but I never had the same enthusiasm for it. It would come, but it would, I'd get the enthusiasm, but it would never. It was never of the lasting duration that I had when we had the business itself. But I'm thinking like Richard Branson and Mick Jagger. They're both my age and older, and yet they're still with that same level of enthusiasm, I imagine.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to speak to them. Probably not quite the same as when they were 30 or 40, because age. What I've seen with Branson, he's become more statesman-like. It's more like, okay, I want to, instead of create new things, I want to just try and help other people, help entrepreneurs, be an example. So maybe he's not in as active creationer mode as he was when he was 30 and 40. More like, okay, well, I want to try and help others and help entrepreneurs, and he set up foundation and so on. So it's a different phase, and there's more a sense of giving back, more maybe being rather than doing. But it would be interesting to hear his.
Well, yeah. I'll ask him next time I see him.
Yeah. Just drop him. Invite him to join us. It'd be great to have Rich on the show.
Actually, I was at a pancake lunch the other day, and I think everybody in the room was over 65. And I thought, and after a while, I thought, God, this is boring. The level of conversation was just so banal; it was driving me nuts. And I thought, and I had this thought. I thought, well, here we are. Everybody's over 65. The next major event is deterioration, loss of ability, and death.
Yes.
Why are we not?
Look on the timeline.
Yeah.
Existential crisis of retirement.
Yeah. The only thing I've got here is illness, e.g. cancer. I am pleased that you changed it from illness, e.g. dementia, though.
Yeah. But dementia is actually more common. Dementia is usually common in old age.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have fear around dementia. I don't have fear around cancer. It's
no.
But I was, but it struck me. I thought, well, here we are. There's a room of 12 people. We're all heading the same direction. Why are we not talking about death? Yeah. Why are we not talking about letting go? You know, every conversation I could hear was, well, you know, when this happened and when that happened and when I did this and when I did that, or my grandchild's doing this or my son's doing this. Oh, jeez.
Well, it's attachment to the timeline, isn't it? That's what you just see from the conversation, that people's minds are attached to their story. The past, you know, what I did, future, grandchildren, and not really considering that, look, it's all coming to an end in the next, who knows, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it is. So maybe we should start considering the eternal, something beyond just this timeline life that we seem to have. But most people don't, extraordinarily. When
they don't.
As you get older, you would go, okay, well, clearly the chalk's running out.
Yeah.
And so maybe I should start contemplating something, that's not on the timeline. Because what happens when the body goes? But a lot of people don't, as you'll know from your peers.
Oh, the vast majority don't.
No.
I think it's unusual.
My dad, his brightest spots in his days when he was in a nursing home, but he said, yes, John and Pat are coming this morning, we're going to talk about death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the four of them would sit there, and he never looked so good. After the discussion that he had with John and Pat and his wife about death.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. He's a psychotherapist. He's a bit more more open maybe to this idea of, okay, well, where do you go? And
John, maybe you need to go on your hero's journey and introduce, talks on death. What happens now?
Yeah. I was just thinking I'll check into one or two death cafes and see what happens, see what's going on. But actually, I did have the thought, seriously, that we have this glut of old people and doing nothing apart from looking backwards, and there is huge potential, really, I would have thought, for helping old people to let go, and consider death.
Well, invite them to join our little group if they're open. But there has to be an openness. There has to be an openness and a willingness. If they want to keep themselves on the timeline, because that's what their mind's always done, and just be going, oh, well, this happened and this, that's all timeline stuff. And what's happening now? Oh, grandchildren. Okay, well, that's then their future. They go, oh yeah, but my grandchild is so amazing. So now I start living vicariously through the grandchild. And they have to start considering that there's something beyond this. They have to be open to it.
Yeah.
Beyond the timeline.
Yeah, I don't get this kind of vicarious living through grandchildren thing. It happens a lot.
It does happen, yeah. And vicarious living. I was having a conversation with Deborah yesterday about a father, who's father of one of Gabriel's friends at school, and he's just like, he's living. No, my son's a genius. He's a genius, and he can do no wrong. And he's just like, no, and then he trips Gabriel up, and he won't admit it. He won't say, oh, actually that happened, apologize, because his son has to be amazing so he can be amazing. See, it's like his ego is now vicariously attached himself to his son and gone, well, my son has to be amazing because that makes me feel better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
This
well,
is
I
the
think it
vicarious
is.
living. But it's insane.
Yeah, it is.
It's crazy that people do this. It's just another form of ego madness.
Mm.
Rather than saying, okay, actually, none of this is true. This whole character, this whole identity that I've believed in isn't true. That's not everyone's willing to. Not everyone's willing to go there and contemplate that, especially as they advance in years, because they've got such a program of running this ego program their entire life, to suddenly now consider that my entire life has been wrong. Wow, that's a big shift. Got to take place there, because there's a letting go there. There's like, okay, well, maybe I've just been wrong my entire life, but at least now I can wake up. It's not too late. I can wake up and see what's right, what's correct.
Yeah.
But most people won't.
Yeah.
It's too scary.
Ah.
So they'd rather. I don't know how people, as you get older, if you don't have an idea of that there's something else, how do you actually deal with it? I'm not entirely sure.
I am totally mystified by that.
How do you deal with, okay, you are going to die, it's guaranteed some point. So
yeah.
This is where you're going. So how do you process that? Like, so what's going to happen to me?
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a bit older than me, and he's, I mean, I know he's not spiritual and he's never been spiritual. And he knows I am, and I have these wacky interests. And he said, well, I have no need to believe in God. And I didn't have the presence of mind to kind of counteract it at that moment. And he lives on his own.
Well, so what happens when you die then?
Yeah. I mean, he lives on his own. He goes 2-3 weeks without seeing anybody.
Extraordinary.
Yeah. But it's not his own. I mean, there's millions of people like that.
But he doesn't want to believe, so all right, well, okay. But at some point, you're going to face death, and you'll leave the body, and then that's inevitable. It's going to happen. So surely you should prepare yourself, some kind of idea of what's going to happen, and hopefully not make the same mistakes. I mean, this is, most people, what they do is they go zoop, they die, they go temporarily into just mind, they're incorporeal, but they've still got all their ego issues and so on, and so that all of that karma, we'd call it, just ego identification, they just skip pure formless awareness. They do a detour around that, and they come back onto the timeline with all of their accumulated egoic energy or karma, and then they do the whole thing again. And they've done it many, many times, and like until they start awakening to this, they just keep looping, keep cycling through.
I used to know one guy who did commit suicide actually, and this psychic connected with him afterwards. The guy threw himself in front of a train or something, and he was in communication with the psychic. He said, as soon as I did that, this voice came through and said, well, that was a bloody stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
What do you do that for, you daft son?
It's too late now. The body's gone. Okay, well, recycle. Back we come. Another life. Go do it all over again. Get to the same point where you want to commit suicide. Are you going to do the same thing, or are you going to learn your lesson? So there's no easy way out. We've got to learn our lessons. Speaking of which, let's go back to the lesson. So happy with the rest is practice. So I can take you into meditation now, or we could go into the text, which is not too long, actually, 6 paragraphs. So should we read it and then do a med? How about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So this one's called The Decision for God, or Decision for Love. I might retranslate that. So I think it's Iona's turn. Iona, would you read the first paragraph for us, please?
Okay. Do you really believe you can make a voice that can drown out pure formless awareness? Do you really believe you can devise a thought system that can separate you from it? Do you really believe you can plan for your safety and joy better than pure formless awareness can? You need to be neither careful nor careless. You need merely cast your cares upon it because it cares for you. Upon pure formless awareness because it cares for you. You are in its care because it loves you. The voice reminds you that all hope is yours because of love's care. You cannot choose to escape love's care because that is not its will. But you can choose to accept its care and use the infinite power of its care for all those love created by it. Wow.
Well done. Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
It's
Lots
like,
of translation on the fly there.
right. There's just again and again and again. It's almost a relentless asking. Do you really believe this? It's like Brene, not Brene Brown, Byron Katie. This daft thought system.
Is it really true? Can you absolutely know this is true?
Yeah. Can you really be trusted with your own safety and joy? You know, are you safe to play in the traffic? When you know you're going through all this anxiety and you just cast your cares upon love because love cares for you.
And that's the total surrender he's asking us. Look, don't try and do this yourself. You need be neither careful nor careless. You cast your cares upon him because he careth for you. So if you go to the timeline diagram, so just saying, let it all go. Don't worry. Just go into the state of pure formless awareness, feeling the love, and that loving presence which cares for you will direct you.
Yeah.
Because you're allowing it into your mind, and that loving presence, which we then call the Holy Spirit from our separated perspective, then guides you and it says, okay, well, you do that, go there, do that. This is the decision you must make because you've totally surrendered. But you have to let go of your own way. If you think you can do it and you think you can manage your life, then of course you block that because there's another thought system that's saying, no, this is the way you've got to do it. Based on your identification with your separate self, the timeline, your past, conditioning, programming, what you anticipate in the future, what you've experienced in the past, mental and emotional, psychological attachment to this character that you've dreamed up in the dream. And now that those perceptions and those decisions are distorted. They're not true.
Yeah.
So you just need to let them go, drop them, and then open to guidance. It's okay, I'm in the spirit, I'm in the love, and I'm just open to whatever. And you don't know when that's going to show up. You don't go, I need an answer now. You go, no, let me just go in there, go into this presence, and really correct my mind and let it go. And then just allow this, whatever I need to know, whatever I need to do, it's going to be shown to me in the perfect time when it's needed. And that's just a very trusting, loving way of living your life.
Ooh, total surrender.
Yeah. That's what he's asking us to do.
Yippee.
And he's saying this is actually so easy. You don't need to stress, you don't need to worry. just cast your cares upon love, into this loving presence, and trust that it's all going to be okay. And you'll be told what you need to do. You'll get the guidance. Yeah, what could be simpler? Everything's going to be taken care of. You just need to trust. And yet we have such huge resistance to this message. Crazy. Like, I can do it better myself. Do you really believe you can devise a thought system that can separate you from love? And do you really believe you can plan for your safety and joy better than love can? And the answer is surely obvious. Yeah, we may believe it, but it's just not true. Okay, so any questions on number 1? Can we move on?
That's good.
So number 2, okay. John, will you read 2 for us, please?
There have been many healers who did not heal themselves. They have not moved mountains by their faith because their faith was not whole. Some of them have healed the sick at times, but they have not raised the dead. Unless the healer heals himself, unless the healer heals himself, because I'll come back to that. He cannot believe that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. He has not learned that every mind God created is equally worthy of being healed because God created it whole.
Okay, we'll translate that.
Oh yeah, okay. He has not learned that every mind love created is equally worthy of being healed because pure formless awareness created it whole. You are merely asked to return to love God, the mind as he created it. It asks you only for what it gave, knowing that this giving will heal you. Sanity is wholeness, and the sanity of your brothers is yours. When I read this the first time, actually, I was curious on sentence number 3, but they have not raised the dead. And I think when I read number 4 just now, I think the key is in that. Unless the healer heals himself, i.e. raises the dead within himself.
No, exactly. Because raising the dead, I mean, he's making an allusion to, you know, his life where he raised the dead. Remember Lazarus, there's a story he raised Lazarus. They have not done this. Really what he's talking about is the resurrection of the mind.
Yeah.
And that's the healing resurrection of the mind into its true identity. You cannot believe that there's no order of difficulty in miracles, because you still believe in the timeline, you still believe in the limitation of the ego, and so that belief system is still in place, and you haven't learned that every mind that love created is equally worthy of being healed.
I think it's a little bit hard on those who are trying to heal others in the first 2 sentences, because, you know, in other parts of the text we are encouraged to go out as miracle workers and teach what we have learned. Now, by virtue of that, if we go out and start teaching what we have learned, we have not learned everything. Yeah. And in that sense, we have not raised the dead. So, you know, we kind of have to accept that many healers are out there that have not healed themselves totally.
No. It's part of their journey. He's not condemning them. He's just saying that this is where you're at.
Yeah.
Until you fully let go of your ego, then, you know, you haven't truly healed yourself.
Yes, the first time I read it, I did interpret it as being condemning them, but actually it isn't really. No,
he's just saying this is where they're at. Now, it's very tempting to say, well, I invited a lady to join this. She said, no, well, I've been doing this 35 years and, I got this. And I'm going, really? Okay, you really got this. Like you've totally surrendered your ego. Probably not. So it's an invitation to say, okay, we'll take it to a deeper level. No, it's not me, it's Jesus doing it. We're just studying this together. It's a forum where you can really just dive deeper into the teaching yourself and immerse yourself in it and really allow it to totally heal you. And Jesus was a good example of someone who'd done that. And he did work miracles. Extraordinary stuff happened around him because he was so in the field of presence.
Yeah.
Like there really was no separate self anymore. And so it's just coming through him, streaming through him in every interaction, every encounter, and people sensed it. And that was what did the healing. And they also, in those days, they had less belief. There was no medical system as such. So they didn't have a belief, oh, no, that's not possible because my doctor says X, Y, Z. They actually believed it was possible, that they could be healed. And because they were open and he brought this energy and so fully, healing happened. They were open. He was the channel. It's a connection, a resonance, and it happens. But Kenneth, you'll probably know, if someone's really not open to healing, it's impossible to heal them. Because they're not open to it. They don't really want it.
Yeah, I ask first silence. And can I what can I do? Can I heal? Is it allowed to heal this person?
Yeah. And you sometimes get a no.
Yeah, if I am allowed, my hair go up on my arm, so I'm confirmed.
Yes.
But
if you're not, then
if one go up, I can try and nothing happens.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
So if you get the answer, then do you say to the person, sorry, I can't help you?
I'm honest. I say I cannot help you, and sometimes I say maybe you don't want to know why.
Yeah.
Because it's too karma and stuff involved. There's too much. Yeah, he must suffer, and that's not my.
Suffer some more until he's ready. So
yeah, he's not ready to open up.
That's how it works. Yeah.
So it's not my business.
Yeah. You have to be quite detached about it.
Yeah.
But I've seen very interesting things taking place, as working with Kenneth, and we used to do these body and soul fairs where we would take a little stall for a couple of days, and we would kind of wander in with a bench and Kenneth and I would lie down on the bench and he would start working with me, but all the time pulling in this incredible big energy, and there was no sort of fanfare and no big notices proclaiming, Kenneth Swallow, amazing healer. We did nothing. People would say in that huge conference venue that they could feel that they needed to make their way there, and people would just stand around, and sometimes tears running down their faces, and say, I don't know why I'm crying. I said, because it's unconditional love that he's pulling through. And he'd just be working with his hands flying, and and we would be booked up solid without doing a thing.
Yeah, amazing. No formal marketing, just
Nothing.
Just presence.
Yeah. It was just, and he changes physically when that happens.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see it.
Yeah.
The photography, I could not recognize myself. I look different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
interesting.
Huge eyes and just so purposeful and smiling the whole time. Lovely.
Animating presence.
Yeah.
So it's a surrender, and then you didn't need to do the normal stuff to market yourselves. You just show up and start channeling the energy, and then it's like everyone just shows up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Many times, haven't it? It's like barefoot healer. Yeah.
I did in Gothenburg. I stand up. You take everything in every chakra down, and then half-meter under the feet, and then you take it up and let go, and ask for wake up people to come to the energy.
Yes, and that's what you do, and then they come.
50 people come. And
No.
I didn't calculate that. That was too much. So I'm very careful with that.
Yeah, you got to be careful. It's a bit like I don't know if you watched that Greg Braden video. Did you watch the Greg Braden video I said a couple of weeks ago
Oh, no, I don't think so.
about the true prayer? He said, what's this modality of prayer? And so he tells a story of his Native American Indian friend, and there's been a drought in this area of Arizona or wherever, desert. Been a drought for years, no rain. And so the friend's like, okay, Greg, I'm calling you up. We're going to do a prayer ceremony. Do you want to join me? And Greg's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm up for it. So they hike into the desert for a few hours and they go to the sacred site, which is like a stone circle, it's sacred to the American Indian people. And so he's expecting a whole like song and dance. And really all his friend does is stand there for a few minutes and he's just quiet and he's connecting and then that's it. He says, okay, we're done. A few minutes, we're done. I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat. And I was like, okay, I thought there was going to be a whole like song and dance. No, he says. So then Greg says to him, well, what did you do? He said, no, all I did was I stood there in the stone circle and I imagined the rain, that I was standing in the rain, that there was rain falling on my skin. I felt it. I smelt it. I felt the mud in my toes, as though I was in the rain. And that's all I did. I didn't say, please bring rain. I just experienced myself as being in the rain, then and there, in the stone circle. And then within 24 hours, there's huge rain. And then it's like raining and raining. And the Greg I say, what's going on? You see, I haven't quite got that part of the prayer right yet. It's like floods. No moderation. It's just like a flood, coming down. He said, I haven't quite got that part right yet. But the fact is it worked because he just prayed rain. He didn't say, I want rain, there's not rain, and I'm praying for rain. He just went into the rain state and like felt the rain and connected with that energy and then drew it into actuality through that. Then within that same night it started raining, having been a long drought. So it's very, very powerful. It's activating the quantum field and saying it is. He basically said the experience is already, and I'm experiencing it now. And so I bring it into being through my experience of it now. And that's the most powerful form of prayer. Because you're not saying, I want rain and there's no rain. You're saying there's rain right now. I'm experiencing it now. And then you call it into being in the so-called physical, because you're actually collapsing time then. That's what he's doing. He's doing a little time collapse, isn't he? So I experience it now, and then, several hours later, it comes into being. But he's actually just collapsed time, which is what Jesus is trying to train us to do with us. So he says in the Principles of Miracles that miracles are the only mechanism you have for controlling time. So as you let go of the thoughts of lack, there's no rain, you drop that, because that's what he was doing in the moment, and just going, there is rain and I'm experiencing it, then it comes into being.
Yeah.
So that was actually a prayer of letting go, which talks Kim at the beginning with the prayer of forgiveness. That's what the guy was doing. He was in the process of imagining the rain right there. In that moment, he was letting go of the idea that there's no rain, dropping the scarcity, and then it happens. So he was actually using exactly this formula of prayer. The only meaningful prayers for forgiveness, because those have been forgiven of everything. Okay, so let me drop the idea of lack, of a scarcity of rain. If I drop that and I simply am in the rain, there's no consciousness of no rain, and I'm totally immersed in the rain, then I bring it into being. So why can't we can all do this? Just drop the idea of lack and scarcity. Immerse yourself in the field of that experience right now, that it's happening right now, and then let it go. Just, okay, whatever. And it will come. It has to come, because you've just dropped the idea that you don't have it. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And we don't get trained to do this. Why don't people teach us this? Okay, so this is how life actually works. But it's so counterintuitive to the ego. Because the ego just looks at the physical world and says, no, there's not rain. That's the reality. And it can't accept that actually it's all in the mind. The primary reality is in the mind. So that's where I need to work. It's intentional. That's where it all starts, and that's where it all ends.
You'd empty the hospitals.
Yeah, this whole COVID pandemic would be over in a moment. People just go, this is nonsense. Just forget it. Drop it all. Drop it all. Leave it all behind. It's not true. It's not real. The only thing that's true is my intention now. That's what's true right now. So why don't I just merge my intention with this powerful source energy, the oneness, and just, that's my intention, is to be in this presence right now. And then if it directs me to do something, then I'm directed. Yeah, that it wants to express through me in this way. Okay, I let it express through me. No resistance, no doubting. Imagine a world where people were living this way. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, if we all do, we say it's now. It's not happening sometime in the future. It's now. I experience it now as a current present reality. Then we call it into being, don't we? And that's actually exactly what we're doing with these sessions and with all this work. You're calling it into being right now, in your experience, right now.
Yeah.
And so then you become the healer of everyone, because you're calling it into existence right now through your experience. And that, as we see, affects the collective domain. Individuals doing it must affect the collective. As you saw, that experience at the fairs. Two individuals doing it with powerful intention, it affects the whole field. Everyone's affected in that area. It's working on the quantum field.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? So we're happy with number 2?
Amazing.
Any comments or questions on number 2?
No.
Happy with that? Okay, number 3. I think it's Iona's turn again.
Oh. Why should you listen to the endless, insane calls you think are made upon you when you can know the voice for love is in you? Love commanded its spirit to you and asks that you command yours to it. It wills to keep it in perfect peace because you are of one mind and spirit with love. Excluding yourself from the at-one-ment is the ego's last-ditch defense of its own existence. It reflects both the ego's need to separate and your willingness to side with its separateness. This willingness means that you do not want to be healed. Wow.
So what made you say wow?
Oh, just the starkness of the last sentence. This willingness means you don't want to be healed. Yeah, it just really hit home. This, you used the word the other day that really stuck, which was the ego hijacking my mind and cluttering this amazing mind with all its insane chatter. And my willingness to side with that chatter, to listen it, to give it house room. And just, it's very stark. Okay, you listen to that, you don't want to be healed.
No. What I love about the Course, he calls it like it is. He just
He
tells it
really
like it is.
does. I mean, it's just like, wow, straight between the eyes. Okay, it means you don't want to
No,
be.
no excuses, or no, you don't want to be healed then. It's very simple.
Yeah,
So change your mind and you can be healed.
yeah,
Also very simple.
yeah. So that
And
was
it's a choice. You can't have the ego and the spirit and expect to be healed.
yeah,
He's so clear about this. You can't fudge this. You must choose very clearly, and you choose in every moment, because your thoughts and your emotions are your choice. Which thought system are you believing in?
it's like you're either pregnant or you're not. You can't be slightly pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. It's this or it's that. That's what he's saying.
Right.
There's no like, oh well, a little bit, because some teachers and teaching say, oh well, we need the ego. We need a little bit of ego because it's about managing our lives on the level of form, and we need some ego because otherwise our lives would fall apart. And you've probably heard those sorts of teachings.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, no, forget it. If you listen to that voice at all, it means you don't want to be healed. You don't really want to find who you are. You don't want love. You don't want peace. You don't want joy. You don't want eternal salvation. And he's saying the spirit can do anything much better than the ego.
Yeah.
So the spirit can do your life and can guide you on the level of form way, way better than the ego can. To deal with the so-called practicalities. People say, no, but I need to be practical. I need to be realistic. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
Realistic. Okay, so realistic by whose standards? Now, which reality are you believing in? Realistic. Well, generally, it's the ego's reality. The ego's realistic is a denial of the truth. So it's just another, desperate defense, as he says, to exclude yourself from that one-ment. And say, no, it's not for me. I don't have the luxury of being spiritual and all of that stuff. I've got bills to pay. I've got to be practical.
Yeah.
Got to be realistic. Okay, so you've got bills to pay. Bills to pay are more important than at the at-one-ment process, then, are they? Because that's what you're saying. Saying this willingness to side with the ego means you don't want to be healed. You don't really want this.
Yeah.
And there's no real excuse in that.
Yeah.
So, he's direct. Jesus is not cruel or harsh, but he's very direct with us. He's saying, look, mollycoddling you and trying to justify you is not going to work. It's not going to help you. So I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to tell it to you as it is. Which, I appreciate. There's a bit of Zen, the Zen kind of master with a stick and a rod going, whoosh. He's just doing it non-physically. He's going, right, just be aware, like, actually, this is what you're doing. Okay? Happy with number 3?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's John again.
But the time is now. You have not been asked to work out the plan of salvation yourself because, as I told you before, the remedy could not be of your making. God himself gave you the perfect correction for everything you made that is not in accord with his holy will.
Okay.
Love itself gave you the perfect correction for everything you made that is not in accord with its holy will. I am making his plan perfectly explicit to you, and will also tell your part in it and how urgent it is to fulfill it. God, pure formless awareness, weeps at the sacrifice of his children who believe they are lost to him.
Okay. So let's unpack that a bit. So anything, any questions, anything not quite gel for you there?
I'm back again. Yeah, no, I think it's pointing out that, you know, the work, the path has been created for us. We don't have to create it ourselves. We are being asked to follow it.
So there's the surrender. It's not my way.
Yeah.
I'm just opening myself to being guided.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but this intelligence, we call it, is going to guide me. This plan will tell you of your part and how urgent it is to fulfill it. So this presence is calling you, speaking to you to say, wake up, wake up to me, and this is part of your own at-one-ment and the at-one-ment of everyone. Listen to me and I'll guide you. And then again, he's using sort of some poetic license there. So God weeps at the sacrifice of his children. Okay, so God doesn't feel sorrow, God doesn't weep. That's not absolutely true. But he's using it to try and encourage you to recognize that actually there's this presence that wants you to accept it. It wants you to be healed. So then he uses this language. But if you say pure formless awareness weeps at the sacrifice of its extensions, then that whole weeps, because he's basically personalizing God in that sense. It just falls apart. It doesn't really work. Pure formless awareness weeps. Well, it wouldn't be pure formless awareness if it could weep, would it? So he's just understand what he's trying to do here. He's trying to motivate us with the language to accept this, rather than meaning it literally. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on paragraph 4?
Cats started fighting under the table.
Right. Okay. You got 2 cats?
No, one just comes in.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
And the other one's like, "Oh, what you doing in my territory?"
Exactly.
No. Okay. So we move on to number 5. Whenever you're not wholly joyous. So whose turn is it to read?
I think me. I haven't got
Yeah,
more.
no.
Okay. Whenever you are not wholly joyous, it is because you have reacted with a lack of love to one of love's creations. Perceiving this as sin, you become defensive because you expect attack. The decision to react in this way is yours, and therefore can therefore be undone. It cannot be undone by repentance in the usual sense, because this implies guilt. If you allow yourself to feel guilty, you will reinforce the error rather than allow it to be undone for you.
Okay. Anything stand out for you there?
Yeah, so I think saying that when you're not feeling wholly joyous, and I interpret that as, just being, you can say being present, talking about it earlier, or having that enjoyment. Just thinking, if it is because you've reacted with a lack of love to one of God's creations, so you're not reacting with that feeling of joy, but it's like something that's coming from the ego's sense. So it's equating it to maybe an attack. Maybe it's something that's with a resistance, or maybe attack. That's your reaction. It can be undone, but not in the sense that you think or how we've learnt on this form or understood how it can be undone by repentance. As he's saying, it's implying guilt, which doesn't exist. So it wouldn't be undone in that sense. So, I mean, if you're just going to, if you're feeling that guilt, you're just reinforcing the error, but the error doesn't exist. So for it to be undone is forgiveness or dropping it or letting it go. And you allow yourself to feel joy.
It's the difference between atonement and at-one-ment. Right there. Atonement is the idea you've done something wrong and you have to try and make amends. You have to repent, which is the traditional Christian version of it. Okay, so you're going to do whatever, confession, Hail Marys. Confession is in the Catholic Church, as you know, but it's really saying you have done something wrong and now you've got to repent for it. Whereas at-one-ment is simply saying, no, you never did anything wrong. You are complete and whole and innocent, and you never did anything wrong. There is no sin, there is no guilt, so there is no error. And the error is undone because it was never done. It was only done in your belief, in a delusion. So the undoing of it is to simply say it was never done. Which then undoes the whole thought system. So you go into this red scrum, if guilt, sin, these underpin the ego's individual identity. They kick off fear. Guilt leads to fear of punishment, concept of a vengeful, wrathful God, accusation, blame, attack, complaint, all projected into an illusion where there are all these forms just seemingly separate from you. And this is saying, well, you can just undo it all with this lesson, with this teaching. So you don't make it real. The ego's version of forgiveness is to make this real, to make your error real, because it makes the separation real, makes your identity real, and then you try and repent for an error that is real. Well, that's never going to work because the error remains in your mind. The only approach that's going to work is to see it for what it is. It's not real. It's not true. So all of this, the thought of separation is true, and all of the whole crazy thought system that arises from that thought of separation is not true either. So I can let it all go. It was seemingly done in my mind, but it can be undone because I can simply recognize that it was never really done. So it's being undone now in my belief.
Yeah.
And that's the only way out of this. If you look at this bind, honestly, you look at the situation the ego's put us in, the only way out of the impossible situation it's put us in is this logic. There's no other way. You'll never get out otherwise. Because you'll keep making the errors real, and then you'll keep trying to atone or repent for the errors that are real, and you never will, because you're still a guilty sinner. And we see that in the religions based on this idea. It doesn't matter how much confession you do, you're still a guilty sinner. So you need to confess more, and it's never going to end. So you just maintain the ego's belief system. The only way out of it really is this radical forgiveness that he's teaching us. Somebody saying it was never done. And if you can just accept that, then you're free. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm happy with paragraph 5. Any questions, Kim?
No.
Okay. Can you give us a little summary, Kim, of that? What's he saying there?
When if you're in a situation where you maybe feel some resistance or something of attack, and you're not in a joyous state, if you're giving, if you're seeing that or perceiving the error as real, or assigning it reality, it implies the guilt, and therefore, in this form, what we've learned to do is repent, but that's actually not the approach. That's not real, because the error was never real. So if the error was never real, you can kind of allow it to be undone, and with that you head towards at-one-ment, not atonement.
Well done, yeah. You expect attack because in this thought system, guilt demands punishment. So you expect to be attacked if you really believe you've sinned and you're guilty. But if you suddenly say that's not true and it's not real, then the fear and the attack just drop away, because it never really happened. So how can you be punished for what never really happened? But it takes some vigilance to keep reminding yourself of this, because apparently it has happened. You know, we're living in the dream that it has happened. Okay. Moving on to number 6. I think is it Iona?
Decision cannot be difficult. This is obvious if you realize that you must already have decided not to be wholly joyous, if that is how you feel. Therefore, the first step in the undoing is to recognize that you actively decided wrongly, but can as actively decide otherwise. Be very firm with yourself in this, and keep yourself fully aware that the undoing process, which does not come from you, is nevertheless within you because God placed it there. Your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made and give it over to the at-one-ment in peace. Say this to yourself as sincerely as you can, remembering that the awareness of oneness will respond fully to your slightest invitation. I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the awareness of oneness will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let it. If I choose to let it by allowing it to decide for love, by allowing the awareness of oneness to decide for love for me.
Okay, so anything strike you there?
Well, he's reassuring me that actually, this isn't difficult. It's really needn't be hard. But by saying be very firm with yourself in this and stay vigilant, stay awake. Although it might look like it's hidden from you under all your ego attack and hijacking, it's nevertheless within me because it's always been with me. I am pure formless awareness. Surrender in peace. Drop your weapons. And I've always, I do love this. You need show just the slightest little willingness, and holy and awareness of oneness is right there.
Respond fully to your slightest invitation.
I love that. You don't need to sweat your prayers,
No, in fact, it's not true prayer if you do. As we discussed, true prayer is the fully letting go and just trusting.
Yeah.
So it's communion. Prayer is letting go of your own ideas, your own identity, and just communion with His presence. That's the true prayer.
Commune with the presence. Yeah.
But you need to let go of your blocks to the awareness of that presence before you can commune with the presence.
Right.
And he actually says, your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made.
Yeah.
Right.
which is
Give it over in peace.
I think it's a lovely prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll do a meditation on it, I think, as part of the med. How about that? Guide you through the workbook lesson and then into this. So this is really a prayer for forgiveness. Right? That's what he's saying. He's saying, I'm praying to change my perception. I'm praying to let go. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. Setting an intention.
Yeah.
And interesting here, line 5, your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made and give it over to the at-one-ment in peace. So let's look at our diagram. To return our minds to the point where the error was made, where the first thought of separation came in. And then the problem was, so we had a tiny mad idea, and then we wanted to believe it. That was the problem. If we just gone, oh, this is a ridiculous idea, let's just drop it. No problem. But we didn't. The idea came in, and then a desire developed. Oh, that would be nice. I could have something other than God, other than love, other than oneness. And so now the desire for this separation is what birthed it all, kicks it all off. And he's saying, take your mind back to this point when you made that decision and correct it. So you climb all the way back up the ladder through all of this red scrum and whatever guilt and sin you're facing and fear and so on. And if you keep doing that, you do get to the point where you'll see that there was one tiny mad idea. It's really just one error that you made. And so you can undo that error.
Are any of us likely to remember the exact moment or date or time or age we were when we had that tiny mad idea?
Oh God, no, it's way beyond your life.
Beyond this life.
Oh yeah, no, this is going back to 16 billion years ago, or maybe longer.
Okay.
We don't know, because there wasn't a conscious moment where you said, okay, well now the moment you know your incarnation, the entire world is a product of the separation.
Got it.
So it wasn't like, oh, there's a moment and then ego developed, and no, you came here because you believed in the separation. And so this is way beyond just this life. But the point is, it was a decision in your mind at some point, and it doesn't really matter when that point was, because ultimately there's no time. The question is, are you gonna keep making the same mistake? I think Gary Renardi had a situation asking Artin and Persa, well, you know, so when will this happen? You know, when will this be over? And they say, well, you're making the same error right now because you're believing in the separation right now. And so that's what we do repeatedly. We make the same error and we don't know we're making the error because you're thinking and you're feeling in a separated way, and then you're confirming that the separation is true, and it's happened over and over and over again. And it starts happening when you come to the recognition that, okay, yes, there's one tiny mad idea. It's an idea of separation. It's playing out in all these aspects in my life. And I see it so clearly, and I'm done with it. Enough already. I'm done with it. I see that it's one tiny mad idea that's been directing all of my thoughts and all of my words and all of my actions for my entire life, and not just this life, but every life has been guided by this ego. And I see the folly of it, and I'm done with it. And that's an experiential realization that I think everyone has to come to, where you go, okay, enough. It's over, I'm done, and you make the decision. And then even though you may stay on the level of form for a while in the body, you've made the decision in your mind. Okay, I'm done with it. It's enough. I'm not going to entertain this thought system anymore. In all of its aspects, all of its phases, all of its dreams, I'm done with it. And then that's when there's a shift. Then you've gone to the point where you originally made the error, and you make another error. You make another decision to correct the error, to undo it. And that's what he's trying to get us to do while we're still apparently here in a human body and living in this world, to make that decision very clearly. And then live our life from that place. Okay, I'm done with it. So only oneness is allowed now in my mind. Oneness is going to stream through. It's going to guide my thoughts, my words, my actions. And I'm then going to be the miracle worker or the healer in this world. Because I'm going to bring in this presence very strongly. But it's a decision in my mind. I must decide.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, the title is the decision for God, the decision for love.
Oh, yes. We get to change our mind from thousands of lifetimes. Wow.
And we must recognize, okay, so recognize simply means I rethink that I actively decided wrongly. We must recognize that this is an error that I made.
Yeah.
I can't blame anyone else. It's an error I made. I actively decided wrongly. I decided I wanted separation. That decision took me down this ladder of separation into this crazy world, believing I'm an individual, now in a body, living in an unfair, cruel world. And so that it's only my own decision that can help me out of this. And this is the responsibility that you have, to make the decision. That's what he's trying to help us to recognize. So that responsibility, taking total responsibility, is recognizing that I decided to separate. And so whatever the consequences of that decision are in this dream, and they're not pleasant, they're actually quite horrific, then I'm responsible for that. But in truth, it never really happened. In truth. So I can just let this go. I can just decide again, choose again, let go of the one tiny mad idea that caused all of this. And then it's all done. It's all undone. It's over. And that's what all he's trying to teach us, which is simple, but it's a massive turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was never done. Wow. To accept that you're in a world and it was never really done and you were never really here. Just wrap your head around that a bit. Whoa, like what is he actually saying? So your life was never done. Your life never really happened. And yet you're living in it, apparently. Living in this form and this body. And yet it never really happened. And actually what's happening now never really happened. Whoa, okay, just process that a bit. Never really happened. But what starts to happen as you contemplate these thoughts is you do start to go out of the timeline, and you go to the top of the ladder. You start going, well, yeah, what if the thought of separation never really happened? None of this could be true. And then your mind starts to go into that wonderment of like, wow, just experience that. Drop into that state of it never really happened and feel what it feels like. And it feels so freeing and so liberating that the experience tells you that this must be true. Even though for the ego this seems to be impossible. How can you say it never really happened when it clearly did? Oh. Well, did it clearly? Or are you just hallucinating? So, shall we do a meditation to close out the session?
Ooh.
All right. So just making yourself comfortable. Sitting feet shoulder width apart, or standing, John, if you want to stand. Feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. Start off with a nice deep breath in. Through the nose, notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle, the muscle you use to contract the flow of urine or squeeze the last drops out. Lock the energy in, draw the energy up the spine to your heart center. Put one hand on your heart, connecting with your heart space. Draw the energy up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale to maximal inhale breath. Take another sip of air in. And in this gap in your breath, just scan your mind. Notice any thoughts, any emotions arising. And as you watch these images that your imagination presents to your awareness, just say very casually, in a very detached way, I've invented the world I see. You apply it to any particular thoughts. So I've invented the situation as I see it. I've invented this person as I see him or her. I've invented this object. And then exhale. Let's let it go with the breeze of your breath and the nothingness that really is. Letting it all go to the nothingness that really is. These images mean nothing. They're just like clouds drifting by, shifting, changing, impermanent, ephemeral. With no substance, they have no power to obscure. So surrender here and just watch your breath, breathing in and out through your nose. So the stomach rises and the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Observe the subtle sensations of the breath, particularly in your nostril area. Pause. Notice the peace, the stillness that's arising. Peace that passes all understanding is being called. Feel that peace, breathe in again, fill your air, lungs up with air completely. Again, remind yourself that I've invented the world I see. Invented the world as I see it. Drop into that space. It's a space of quietness, stillness. So just stepping back, observing your breath, breathing in and out through your nose. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just sink inwards to what's been called the kingdom of heaven. Buddha, coming from a different culture and tradition, called something different, nirvana. But you can experience it right now. Let this prayer that I'm going to read you just take you into this deep state, connection with your source. Say to yourself, I must have decided wrongly as you breathe in, because I am not at peace. Maybe observe some of that disturbance in your mind. Say to yourself, I made the decision myself. but I can also decide otherwise. Made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. And I want to decide otherwise. I want to be at peace. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. So you decide by simply saying, I've invented the world I see. Breathe in on that. So you're breathing in the truth, the light. Imagine the light, golden or white light, flowing into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every corner of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the light. The light is naturally peaceful. And do not feel guilty because Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let it. I do not feel guilty. The Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. So you just breathe the Spirit in. Imagine it as a golden or white light. If that helps you, maybe it's just a feeling, presence, breathing it in. Every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind is in the light. The Holy Spirit, or the awareness of oneness, remembrance of your own oneness. Let this undo. So exhale, just release any darkness. You're aware of any dark spots in your mind, any negativity, any contraction in your mind and your body. Just blow it all away with the breeze of your breath. Blow it all away like a dark smoke out of your mouth to the nothingness it really is. So I choose to let the Holy Spirit, my awareness, choose to let this presence into me, my mind, my body, deepest part of my beings, in the light. And I allow it to decide for God, for love, for me. This presence is love, so it can only decide for love. Which means that it simply looks upon the ego and says, you are not real. So just sink into this deep peace and stillness. We call it the light, presence of God, love. Doesn't matter what you call it, really. Matters as you experience it fully, deeply, completely right now. The next couple of minutes of deep silence. Any thoughts arise, observe them casually. Remind yourself of your intention that you want to decide otherwise. You choose to let the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness, decide for God, for pure formless awareness for you. And then let it go with the breeze of your breath. Exhale, dropping it all away to the breeze of your breath. Coming to rest in the peace of God, it's been called, the peace of God that passes all understanding. Sinking inwards to the kingdom of heaven in your own mind. Let go of all thoughts. Any thoughts arise, you just dismiss them quickly by saying, I've invented this thought as I see it. I've invented this situation. Just drop it away and give yourself the opportunity to just experience this light presence of God or love fully, deeply, completely for the next couple of minutes. Just let it all go. Just completely surrender. Trusting that this higher power knows what it's doing. It's going to guide you faultlessly, flawlessly in life. Through all the tests and the challenges, trials, tribulations, you can decide to undo it all. It is the one remaining choice you have in this world. And so gently just coming back, this deep state, to an awareness of the body and the breath and the senses in the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And pause at the top of the inhale and smile. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts and emotions going on. Observe any remaining attachment, any negativity. Remind yourself, today's lesson, I have invented this situation, this person, place, event, whatever you're thinking of. I've invented it. So how can I be the victim of it? And exhale. Just exhale, release it all. Release your breath. Just let go, exhale, feel the air flowing out of your mouth, chest and the stomach suck back in. Energy subsides back down the front channel of your body. You feel a sense of letting go, just dropping a burden away. So, count to 2. Just feel the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling with your hands, touching. There's a subtle flow of air on your skin. Breathe that air in. Notice any smell in your nose, taste in your mouth. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things. It's very still, calm, surrendered state. Notice all of these subtle sensations without any judgment, no attachment, no judgment. Notice how peaceful it is. And in the state, and you can notice, by noticing it, you start making it your default state of awareness. So you carry it with you to the rest of your evening, on into tomorrow. So it is said, so it is done. So, just breathing in. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. And just take a minute or 2 to apply today's lesson to the external world. So as you're looking around, it's a very calm, quiet, surrendered state after the meditation. Just repeat the idea for today. I've invented the world I see. As you just watch whatever your eyes happen to look at. No distinctions, just apply the idea to everything. Repeat it a few times in this very slow, deliberate way. As you look around the room, I've invented the world I see. Close your eyes again. Apply the idea one more time to your inner world. You look at any images in your mind, any thoughts, remind yourself that I've invented the world I see. I've invented this situation, if it's a situation you're thinking about, as I see it. And then on this person, as I see him or her, just blow it all out, let it all go. So none of these thoughts, none of these sights, sounds, sensations really affect you at all, because you've invented all of it. Say one more time as you open your eyes, I have invented the world I see. I've invented the world as I see it. It's another way of saying it, because I invented the perception of this illusory world. I invented the world as I see it. So just notice the state you're in now, anchor it in for the rest of the evening. You should be feeling quite peaceful and calm and connected. Carry that with you into your bed and to tomorrow. So it is said, so it is done. And that brings us to the end of the meditation and the session. So thank you everyone for joining, and wish you a very peaceful evening, and namaste. We hope to see you tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening.
Thanks, Jono.